Welcome. My name is Sue DeCaro, and I'm here with my good friend and business partner, Erin Taylor. And today we have the pleasure of spending time with our friend and entrepreneur, Silvia Bianco. Silvia is an award-winning chef, writer, and former restaurateur. Commonly known as Chef Silvia, she gives cooking classes to private and corporate groups for some of America's top companies, including GE, Unilever, Dannon, Barnes & Noble, Procter & Gamble, and many others. She also serves as a resident chef at Williams-Sonoma and has cooked on stage at the highly acclaimed Ridgefield Playhouse and the James Beard House, and on numerous national TV shows, including The Today Show on NBC. Author of Simply Sauté, the first in-depth book on sauté in the US, Chef Silvia is a regular contributor to the hugely popular website, simplereminders.com, has also written for the Huffington Post, Mind, Body, Green, and Awakening People. She considers herself a holistic chef and spiritual teacher, writing from her years of spiritual study and practice as a longtime student of A Course in Miracles. Chef Silvia has an MBA in marketing from Pace University in New York City and a BA in speech and theater from the State University of New York. Welcome, Silvia. We are so pleased that you're here with us today.
Hi, Sue. Hi, Erin.
Hi.
I'm so excited to do this.
Excellent. Well, our first question for you, Silvia, or Chef Silvia, I should say, is you use a catchy name, Food and Ideas Worth Chewing On. Tell us a little bit about this tagline and where it came from.
Oh my gosh. You know, I've always had this problem of how do I merge my spiritual ideas with my food ideas or my food creations. And it's something that I've done for years and years and years. Ever since I first was a chef, there was always this spiritual element to what I did. So when I went online, I kept them separate, you know, all the time. And then I decided that it was time to really bring them together, but I didn't know how. How was I, you know, going to do that? And literally one day that just entered my mind. And I was like, that's it. And so, do you like it?
I love it. I love the idea of you're bringing the spiritual with, you know, your chef work and entrepreneurism. So what a fabulous combination.
Thank you. I thought so too. And sometimes I just think, I don't know if anybody gets me, because, you know, they'll get this, they'll share this quote that is, you know, kind of deep. And then it says, Chef Silvia. And I'm like, well, you know, what is a chef doing with this philosophizing? But it's actually been in my family for a very long time. I come from a very long line of philosophers.
Interesting.
Wow.
I think that spirituality and food go hand in hand because,
Yes.
you know, we have to nourish our body as much as we have to nourish our souls. And I think sometimes people run through so quickly through their lives that they forget to nourish their souls. So I think it's really unique that you combine the two in order to kind of wake people up and give them two very different and very similar things to enjoy or to think about.
Yeah, I totally agree. You know, when you think about it, we're actually, when we eat, we're ingesting ingredients. And, you know, I feel that even more so than what we're actually eating, what is the energy and the vibration of what we're eating? So if we're eating something that was produced in a factory, even if it may have really wholesome ingredients, it's just not going to be the same as if you made it in your kitchen for your family with all the love in your heart. You know, as corny as that sounds, it makes a huge difference.
I completely agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering where you got your passion for cooking. Where did it come from?
I actually grew up with it. I was born in Italy. I don't know how many people know that, but I was born in Italy. And but I was raised here in the States. I was only 5 when I came here. And like I said, I come from a long line of not only philosophers, but cooks. And both of my parents were amazing cooks. And they held court around the kitchen table, literally, where it would be dishes coming out all day long, and people would stop by and they'd have all kinds of discussions about, life in general. And we'd hear stories of what it was like growing up in Italy after the war and during the Depression here in the States. And, so I had all these firsthand experiences, and it's where I learned, I think, that for the first time, the art of storytelling, because it happened around the table. And for me, it was more of a quest to want to recapture that sense of connection that happened around the table, more so than food, actually. Mm-hmm. So I consider myself more of a teacher and writer and storyteller before I'm a chef.
Wow.
If that makes
perfect sense. So I guess I'm wondering, obviously from the introduction, you're very successful in what you're doing, and you've really created a name for yourself in your business with your writing and many of your connections. And I'm curious how this, I don't want to call it conditioning, but your family life, growing up, and the storytelling, how you incorporate that into your actual business side with the, as a chef. Are you able to bring that storytelling to life in some of the work that you do outside of your writings? Or how would you say you combine all of that to continue this wonderful success that you're building for yourself?
Well, I mean, to be honest, I think I was better at doing that earlier. Or maybe that's the wrong way of saying it. I had more opportunity to do that earlier, because when I had my restaurant, which I had for 10 years, and it was really successful, and it really was started from the perspective of I wanted to have a place where the community could gather. And so I was really successful at doing that. In fact, we couldn't get people out of their tables. We'd have to buy them dessert and said, "Will you please move to the bar and have this dessert on us?" But so it was a wonderfully warm environment, and it always amazes me that now, I mean, I closed it at the end of, it was actually New Year's Eve of 2003. So it's been 13 years, 13 years since I've closed it, and people still talk about it and remember it, and still remember the dishes that they ate when they were there. I mean, it totally amazes me. But while I was there is when I started doing cooking classes, and because in that environment, it was in a commercial kitchen and all that, I was able to offer it to the public. So people came, maybe individually or with a friend. And in that way, I was me sitting at the table with them, because we would cook something and then sit at a table, eat a course, go back to the kitchen, make the next course, go back to the table. And so I was able to really kind of inspire the conversation. So it really was conversation around the table. Whereas now, because I don't have a restaurant and groups hire me privately, it's their party, so to speak. So if a corporate group hires me, I don't take over the conversation. I let them, I just try and create an environment where they have their own. So it's a little bit different. And maybe one day I will go back to the old formula. Like, it's one of my dreams to find an old barn, right? And totally convert it with a demonstration kitchen in the center, and then all kinds of tables around it, and do the same thing, like have a cooking class, and then we all eat together. I just think that would be so much fun.
Are you manifesting that?
Well, I have it out there. I really have no attachment to it coming about. If that's the best way in which I can serve, then so be it. If not, something else will come into play.
Love it.
I love your openness to what life and the universe provides to you or offers to you, what comes your way. And I personally think that's the best way to live life. And having no attachment to the outcome and just being open and willing to see what's coming and give it a shot and see where it takes you. It's kind of makes life like an adventure.
Absolutely.
That's really neat. I think that's really neat.
Yeah. And then everything is a joy.
Yes. Yes. And I go back to the idea about food and spirituality being so closely connected. And what you created with your restaurant is really neat because you said that your intention was to create this environment that kind of recreated your childhood where people ate and had conversation at the same time, and it was an enjoyable experience. And then it became such a huge success that you had to kind of slide people over to the bar to make more room. That's so neat. So you clearly made an impression on the people who came through the doors of your restaurant, and to the point that they remember it all these years later.
Absolutely. You know, the last couple of months of the restaurant, when we announced that I would not be renewing my lease, we had a series of parties, you know, for our staff, for the community, and in our big farewell party, we videotaped a lot of it, and we had customers come up and talk about their experience. And I tell you, if I was in tears all night. I did a Jenny.
Wow.
Because the number of people who said that they had gotten a healing while they were there was, I mean, I'm getting chills now just thinking about it, because I didn't know that. I didn't know. All I knew was that people felt good when they were there. And that was my intention, as well as to give them phenomenal food. So it was just a creative collaboration between myself, my ex-husband, and the team that stayed with us the full 10 years. I mean, we were a family for sure. And every single day was opening night. So I miss that part of it. I do miss that part, but I like the freedom I have now.
Well, it sounds like you have a lot of freedom now to choose the things that really speak to you. And I'm curious as to how you choose them and how you're building your business and continuing to build your business in the successes that you've had. And is there anything specific about how you have gotten the business, how you have attracted, NBC and been on the Today Show? Tell us a little bit about how you've manifested and how you've created all of this for yourself.
Well, this is going to seem a little hard to believe, but I swear I'm telling you the truth. After I closed my restaurant, like I said, it was New Year's Eve of 2003. And as you can imagine, I was exhausted because my son and I had cleaned up the rest of it, handed the keys to the landlord, and it was bittersweet. And for 10 years, I mean, there was a lot of sacrifices because my children were young then, and I missed a lot of them growing up, because it's the kind of thing where if I wasn't in the restaurant, at least for the first 5 years, it couldn't open. So I literally had to be there until I trained a staff. But anyway, so here I was. It was New Year's Eve. I was exhausted. I was alone in the house because the kids were out in their own parties or whatever. And so in my exhaustion, I said to myself, I just want to work 6 or 7 days out of the month. And that be enough for me to pay my bills and support myself. And I didn't even think about it. It wasn't a thought. It just came out in my exhaustion. And then I forgot about it. And sure enough, I mean, after that, what happened is, well, it was a couple years later because things happened, like my house burned down, and I rebuilt it and I built an amazing demonstration kitchen in that home. And one day, a friend of mine said to me, Silvia, your website needs updating. And so I said, okay. And she goes, and I'm going to optimize it for Google searches. And I'm like, okay. At the same time that happened, the New York Times came out with an article on how corporations were using cooking classes as team building events. At the same time that was going on, my alma mater, Pace University, had asked me to donate a cooking class to their big annual fundraiser. And I said, okay. So one day I'm sitting in my kitchen and I get a phone call, and the guy on the phone says, you don't know me, but I'm the vice president of marketing for Barnes & Noble. And right now, the CEO of Time Warner and the CEO of Barnes & Noble are in a bidding war for your class. But it's too rich for my blood. So, but it's my wife's birthday next month. Will you do a cooking class for her? That was the conversation. And from that moment on, I swear I never had to look for clients. It just, that combination of things just, it just started it sparked everything. And it just, that's what happened.
Wow.
And to this day, I don't look for clients because I have a very good Google ranking because I've been around for so long, and I use keywords, and I update it now again because, Google's always changing their algorithm. So I try and keep on top of that. But basically, that's it. I don't look for clients.
Wow. Silvia, that is a phenomenal story. Do you think that it's really because of the restaurant and how you built that community and that family with everyone that came through your doors and the connections that you built with them as being part of the experience and the spirituality and the healing? Do you think that has carried a lot of weight in all that has attracted, has come to you, all that you've attracted without necessarily going for it?
I think it carries a lot of weight in the internal learning I did, but as far as it being a catalyst for the corporate and other work that I did, no, not at all, actually.
Wow.
So it was interesting. I mean, originally, in the early years when I still lived in that town, yes, I got work as a result of that, but I've been away from there now for like 7 years. And so, and people forget. And I've never done a whole lot of catering. It isn't something I promote. I do it occasionally, for friends or, things like that. I mean, I have it on my website as one of my services, but it isn't something, I promote. I think I'm just too expensive for most people. And it's not about that. I mean, it's a ton of work. So I price it accordingly. And, and this way they have a choice. Because all my prices are on my website. I don't hide anything. And if someone, doesn't want to spend that kind of money, they don't have to. And then I do a lot of things that are free, actually. So.
That's fabulous. It sounds like the way all of that came about was what some people might say was random, but I think we all know that there's nothing random about it, and that you were just, you decided to close one door, which opened up the space in your life to bring in something completely new and different.
Yeah, and there's even more to that story. Like at the time that I closed my restaurant, in the months that followed, my book Simply Sauté came out the same month that my restaurant closed. A few months after that, my mother passed away. A few months after that, my house burned down. and I got a divorce. So it was a huge life change. But I really think my intention for making that statement of I wanted to work only 6 days out of the month was not driven out of laziness. It was driven by the fact that I really wanted more time to do the inner work that I was so committed to and so passionate about. And, you know, during the restaurant, I mean, I was working, you know, I had 14, 15-hour days sometimes. And so when I wanted to have quiet times or read, I'd have to do that in the wee hours of the morning. And many times I was too tired. So I remember feeling on that day that I closed that I was the richest woman in the world, because all of a sudden I had this luxury of time that I hadn't had for 10 years. And so that was the motivation. And I think what it proved to me is that we can try and manifest something and say, okay, it's going to come in this way. But what that taught me was that, you know, none of our logical minds could have planned all of those events that had to come together for my cooking classes to take off. You know, I could have made a strategic plan that, okay, I'm going to email 10 companies a day, and I'm going to, you know, all those practical things that we're told how to do. But instead, it was just a desire to support myself in some way, because my real work was my spiritual study. And so when that happens, I totally believe that you are supported in whatever way makes sense for you, right? Whether it's a job that's flexible, whether it's various streams of income that allow you to do what you do. And I think that's the reason it came about. I had nothing to do with it.
That universe takes care of us sometimes when, you know, well, many times, I think most of the time, and having the intentions internally and I think mentioning them externally too makes a huge difference in what we attract, you know, in the magnet of life.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. I love what you said about time. I have my own personal fascination with time. And I love that you said that you felt like the richest person in the world at that point, because you suddenly had this overabundance of time. And I think that's so true. And I think that people sometimes take time for granted. And how many people do we read about on their deathbeds who don't wish they had more money or more fame or more accolades? They just wish they had more time, just one more day with their loved ones.
Right.
So I think that's so, so true, that time is the true wealth that any of us can possess.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And for the first time, I didn't have to wake up the next morning and go to a specific place. And I didn't have to do it the next day or the day after that or the day after that. And to me, that was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? You know?
Freedom.
But that wasn't scary. That was, yeah, like you say, so it was freedom.
Yeah, totally. It wasn't scary at all. It wasn't.
Yeah, mind, body, energy freeing. It sounds like it's, you know, the soul, it's really freeing for everything. That's what it sounds like.
Yep.
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
So as we turn to this new year, I'm wondering what you see in store for you, or what you have in store for yourself for the new year.
Well, there's a number of projects that I want to work on. One of them is very practical. I want to learn how to make tasty like videos, because I think they are such a great way for learning how to cook. I mean, you can just look at those quick videos and you could see yourself making that dish.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so I'm committed to learning how to do that. So, and it's a big fear of mine because I'm not technically gifted. Let's put it that way. But when I put my mind to something, I know I can do it. So I started teaching myself how to edit on iMovie.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I'm going to, videotape and play around with that. In fact, I'm doing that this afternoon on something I already filmed. So yeah, that's my next project because I truly believe that anyone can cook. In fact, I know that from having taught thousands of people how. And I also think it's going to be very, very, very important in the years to come, even more so than ever, because none of us know what's going to happen on a global basis. We have a lot of challenges facing us. And in times of scarcity of anything, being able to cook and grow a garden if you have the space to do that, and make something delicious from very few ingredients, I think is going to be really, really important. So I want to teach people how to cook, and even if it's not challenging, if your health is important to you, I think cooking is absolutely essential. So yeah, that's one of the things I want to do.
When you say cooking something from nothing, I think Erin and I could both agree that we might need to be your first client, because there are times when there's absolutely nothing in either one of our refrigerators, and we are trying to figure out how to cook something for our family from really nothing. But what a wonderful opportunity for so many. And I absolutely love cooking, but I'm like 15 minutes or less. I need to start looking at some of your wonderful recipes and see how I could, engage myself a little more in the kitchen. But I look forward to seeing your videos and your new movies on cooking step by step. And I think many people would love to see that, Silvia.
Thank you. And you know what else that I'm going to do that I think I'm really, really excited about? I believe I'm going to start next week. And once a week, I'm going to do a Facebook Live on cooking a dish. But it's not going to be about the dish itself, though you'll learn how to make that particular dish. But each dish, it will be chosen because it shows you certain techniques that you can use for other things. Because my motivation has never been, even when I teach classes to this day, I always say, okay, I may be teaching you how to make shrimp scampi, but you could be using chicken, or you can be using asparagus or whatever. So it'll be techniques, so that you can then take those techniques and make whatever you want, because that's not going to change. So it's really about cooking without a recipe, though I will give you recipes for everything that we make, because you need them initially. So it's kind of like, that's another way cooking is like life. Like when we're insecure with ourselves, we want a plan. We want a recipe on how to do something. But once we are comfortable with it, we can throw it out the window, and we change the recipe in ways that suit us. And that's what I want everyone to do with the recipes I give them. So I'll do it once a week, probably around this time, every Wednesday or Thursday. I haven't decided yet. So
we're around lunchtime on the East Coast.
Yes.
On Wednesdays.
Yeah, and I'll post some information about that as I get clearer about what to do. And a lot of it is going to be focused on saute, because it's the quickest way to cook anything. And once you have your prep done, you can saute in 10 minutes or less. Dinner is done.
Well, I think, sorry, Erin, I think the beauty of that is,
I'm so excited, I can't stand it.
You go for it.
I just want to say I'm going to be tuning in because 10 minutes or less sounds great to me.
And I'm not kidding. Truly, 10 minutes or less.
What I love about it too, Silvia, is I like 10 minutes or less, since I'm about 15 minutes now. That is really, 10 minutes or less and less things in my fridge. You're speaking my language. It's beautiful. But I think the other thing that really speaks to me and may speak to a lot of our audience is that you're teaching technique. And so, for example, if shrimp is something that you're allergic to or is not part of your, your food groups that you eat, you can substitute anything. And I think that is so valuable in today's world where, there's so many people with allergies and issues with their food that you really are speaking to all of them by providing technique, not specific requirements.
Right,
So.
right. It's like the old adage, well, how does it go? Teach them how to fish, not to, something like that. I forget how it goes.
Give a man a fish and you feed him for a day.
Right, thank you.
Yeah.
Teach him to fish and you feed him for a lifetime.
Yes,
Right.
thank you.
Yeah.
That's it.
So I'm thinking many of our audience members may wonder the question that's popping up into my mind, and that is, do you cook meals every single day? Do you have like a big, if you're going to have dinner tonight at home, do you prepare large meals or, very in-depth meals for yourself? Is this something that you do every day, just, for you and your family?
No. For myself, I'd be happy with an English muffin with peanut butter and jelly. Seriously. I cook when I'm either working on a recipe or cooking for my family. And my kids are grown, so it's not like they're in the house. My daughter is currently living with me before she moves to California, and she's a super picky eater and loves cream sauces and things and cheese. So I tend to make a lot of things like that for her. If it was me, it would be much more on the lighter side. But yeah, I love cooking for people. So for instance, when I do these classes, I'll probably cook once or twice a week. And then the rest of it, I'll do things with leftovers. Or, what I love to do is, make an omelet with whatever's in the fridge, or a quesadilla with whatever's in the fridge, or a soup with whatever's in the fridge. So, I mean, yeah, I can make wonders with just whatever is on hand.
Excellent. Well, I'll be following.
Thank you.
Well, it sounds like you have some really exciting stuff coming up that a lot of people will benefit from.
I hope so.
So where can people find out more about you or connect with you?
Well, for sure, on my Facebook page, Chef Silvia. Like, everything is Chef Silvia. So it's easy to find me on social media, and my website is chefsilvia.com. The only thing that people have to remember, it's Silvia with an I instead of a Y, because there is a Silvia with a Y, but she lives in North Carolina and she's always forwarding stuff to me.
Okay, so ChefSilvia.com.
Correct.
Fabulous. Before we ask the final question, we would like to take a moment to thank you for your time and acknowledge you for your talent in feeding people's bodies as well as feeding their minds and their spirits.
Thank you.
What a beautiful gift you give to others.
Oh, thank you. Now I'm going to cry.
Well, don't cry yet, because there's one more question.
Okay.
Given that Sue and I are the co-founders of Building Connected Communities, and that is our passion, we wanted to ask you, what is the value of connection in your personal and professional life?
Oh, God, it's everything. It's everything. I think one of the things I know for sure is that without connection, we wilt. I think we die without it. I really do. And that was the whole intention why I even wanted to start my restaurant in the first place, is to bring a sense of community connection, because I missed Italy. I mean, in Italy, you connect at the local piazza or the cafe, and there's all these gathering places. Our towns in America are not set out that way. So I wanted to create an environment where they can do that. But even, you know, now that I don't have a restaurant, I feel the sense of loss in the sense that even though I live in a small community in New England, I don't feel that sense of connection. You know, I have it personally with a few really close friends, and I have it certainly with my family. And I'm very fortunate like that. I come from a large Italian family, and we really do gather together and we spent all of Christmas together. And so, and that certainly feeds you. But, you know, I really think in general, in the life of Americans, they don't have that. So I really admire what you do. I really admire that. And you know what? And I think food is just, it really is just a way to get people to connect. Mm-hmm. You know, so if you guys ever want to do something, you want me to come there and cook for your big gathering, I'll be happy to do that, because
Yay!
That's what it does. It's just an excuse to get us to connect. I swear, it's God's trick on us. You know, it's like, I'm going to make humans, and they're going to have to need to eat every day, because if they don't need to eat every day, they'll never get together, you know? I really do. I even wrote an article about that I love. But yeah.
That's great.
It's a wonderful excuse. And if you notice, all the deep conversations really happen around food, don't they?
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah. So what I do and what you do go hand in hand.
I agree.
I think we need to plan a get together,
Yes.
a chance to connect with food.
I love that.
That sounds great. I'm hungry thinking about it.
I know, me too.
Well, thank you again, Silvia, for this lovely conversation. We really enjoyed hearing your story and about your childhood and your wonderful restaurant that I wish I could have gone to, but I didn't know about it back then.
Aw. Well, this was delightful. I wasn't quite sure what you were going to ask me. I mean, I knew it had to do with food, but it was a really wonderful conversation. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoyed it.